All right, let's get this party started. Not pointing in the right direction. Looks like it might be. Um, yeah, it should be decent. There we go. Okay. Hello, how's it going? GX. There we go. Took the web browser a second to show your name. Just getting started here, checking the Discord real quick. Hey, Kintek, how's it going? Just checking Discord real quick. How's it going? How you doing, Miranda? Oh, you know what? I got fans running. You probably can hear them. Let's see if we can't kill them. There we go. That should make things a little bit quieter. All right. Goodness, that's a good question. Those are the worst. Like, Python doesn't have a good binary story, so like building any kind of exe or executable files is a pain in the neck regardless of what you use. All right. Yeah, that's the way it is for a lot of people. Not everybody can stay up all night while I stream. I tried to do the Sunday one a little bit earlier, but it's just hard for me to do anything early in the morning. So end up what are they doing here? Yeah, so I do my best. I do 3 o'clocks on Sundays and then 5 o'clocks on Wednesdays, and I hope that 2 hours helps some people get on and join. The nuns? I don't know. That's a JavaScript and Flask. All right. I think last week we set up some to-do items, didn't we? Let's find out. Bit. That one right there. Projects. All right. So we got to go to projects. It's going to be over here. Projects. Because the beta projects are designed to be like, the new project system is designed to, I guess, be more of a multi-repository kind of thing. So it ends up going on the user or the organization page rather than on the repository page. So, all right. So now we need to be able to add a file to Bit. Oh, from the CLI. Hello, Jessa. How's it going? All right. Let's get rid of this. Send that back over there. All right. So we got that out of the way. What next? So we got to figure out how to add a file. Let me see. I'm looking at the API here. That's not what we want to be looking at. Oh, you know what? I've got a new theme and I forgot to add it. I was going to add it before I started. Let me... can I switch it here? Yes, I can. Does it show up in here? It doesn't, so I have to add it. Import scheme. Up one. And there it is. apply, boom, there we go. Pretty colors, bright blue. All right, so we're looking at the API here. I'm trying to think. Did this have... Oh, wait, never mind. This doesn't have a way for us to add the files yet. Okay, all right, so that's why I said to add files. Is there any notes on this? No, there's no notes on that. So we've got to add an endpoint to add a file. Actually, that's not even going to make sense, because how are we doing this? We're doing this that if we look back at our models and we look at the file model, we see it has a name and then it has a bit ID. And the bit ID points at a bit, right? And then the bit has an archive ID and a user ID. So file belongs to a bit. So we have to have a way to create a bit, and then we upload files to the bit. So we need to be able to create a bit first, right? And I don't think I have that in here. Archive bits. I have a way to delete a bit. I have a way to add a name to a bit. I don't know if these make sense necessarily for how we're doing this. So like the thing is, how do we do this? How do we do this? So we need to add a route. Can I just select all of these and wipe them out? Like, that would be great. So I think these are all wrong. That wasn't what I meant to do, but okay. All right, whatever. So yeah, what we need to do is we need to create a bit. And when we create a bit, the bit's got to have, it has to be attached to a user ID, and then it has to have a list of files. Each of those files will be pointing back at the bit ID. We're using the bit ID, right? And then each of those files has a code object. And that's the code, because like if you look at this, it's just a file name and then the bit ID that it belongs to, right? So then you have to have a code object, which actually contains the code, quite a lot of code actually. 2 to the 14. Like we'll be able to hold up to 16,000 characters. And if you figure you got 80 max per line, you're gonna have at least 200 lines of code, and like nobody's filling a line completely with characters. So you'll be able to get a fairly large file inside of there. We'll have to see if that's enough. Maybe we want to make that bigger. I don't know. We'll figure it out eventually. If it turns out to be too small, I've got a Alembic set up so we can adjust that pretty easily. Is the font size large enough for everybody? I know there was a little bit of a complaint that it was a little bit too small on Sunday. So let me know if it's a good font size. I did buy PyCharm Pro. I'm using that for my personal stuff, but I now have the ability to run PyCharm and PyCharm Pro, and they don't interact with each other, and their settings are separate. So I can actually make the font in PyCharm CE big for streaming, and then I can make the font normal in PyCharm Pro for myself. I do lose when I'm streaming. I lose a lot of like the fancy features, like the PyCharm Pro. I can jump right into a SQLite database file and look at the data in the file, which is incredible. Like this doesn't have anything like that. Crazy stuff that thing has. But yeah, so we've got to create an endpoint where we can create a bit. I'm trying to think, do we want to be able to create a bit and then upload files to it? Or do we want to be able to create a bit and upload the files all at once? I think we're going to do them as separate endpoints. So we need to create an endpoint. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead. Where do we have our endpoints hiding? Bit models, main, auth, config, site. Is that where we're doing it? Yeah, we're doing it in here. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need that. We just need the authentication, which returns back a JWT. And right now we don't have, like, we're going to be using Discord login. I'm working on another project, and it's going to have Discord login as well. But I also want to give it like a few different kinds of login. So I'm probably going to take what I build there and pull it into here so we can get some fancy login. Right now, this just takes a username and signs it, and that's how you get signed in, which is fine for now. Like, how are we doing the sign JWT? Are we using JWT algorithm? Or so like we're doing, okay. Where is config coming from? Load config, load settings. So it's just loading a bunch of JSON files and then unioning those dictionaries together, and that's our config. And then the load config returns a settings object. Okay, all right. All right, cool. All right, so it's just using HS256. So it's just it's a symmetric key encryption. So you only have one key. You don't have a public and a private. You just have a single private key, which is fine for this use because we only need to be able to read it from this one service. So what do we need to do here? We need to create a bit. So we need to have. I'm trying to think. If I do I have tests for this? I don't have tests set up for this. You know what? Maybe. Let's go ahead and get some tests set up here real quick. And to do that, let's just do, boom, pop this open. We'll grab the tests code from here that I already wrote. Testing API, boom. No. Don't want to write stuff. I want to copy stuff, boom. And then we can go away, get rid of that. And then we can come over here and we can do npf test API like that. Okay. And then we don't need this. We don't need that. Don't need any of that. Don't need that. Don't need that either. We do need this. This is going to be used to set up our database. And then we need this right here, and let's see, I'm trying to think, async. I think if we do this, if I do async engine and then I have it return, we don't need to use auto use, do we? We just need to do that. Set up, we'll name this database, right, like that. That's going to create all the stuff from bit.database. What do I have to import from database to get the database working? Ooh, we have a connect function. Awesome. Import connect. At PyTest, I've got to get all this stuff set up here so that we can, I think I can just said def. Connect database like that, and then that's wrong thing. Return connect here like that, and then down here, this is going to rely on connect database. So that's just going to pipe that into there. Now, what is this complaining about? Settings. Oh, we have to get settings from config. And we just need to do load config. So I'll create another fixture. We're going to do from bit.config import load. Was it load config or load settings? I can't remember. Hello, Ello. Load config. Load config. So we're going to create a fixture at pytest.fixture def config return load config, right, like that. And then we do config, and then we pass config to connect. And that will hopefully get the database connected. That's right. Let me see. Settings.uri. Yeah, that should be right. Because then, like, we just have to come out. I don't even know. This will actually end up being different because this returns a settings object. What we're going to do is not do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do settings. We're importing settings. Because what we want to do is we want to provide our own settings for all the tests. And then what settings do we have? That works. The database URI. Is that actually gonna, okay, that's base settings. URI. DB URI string equals, oh goodness gracious, what is that string? Oh, never mind, we're going back over here. Cat, where do I have to go for that? I need to go to test/testing API. Boom. This, whoops, scroll too fast, too far. We just got to grab this right here. I need the driver. That's the part I can never remember. All right, so now we have the driver. So we do boom, 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 and that will create a memory database. So we're just going to default to that. Extra allow, boom, boom. All right, cool. And then we do settings. We're just going to return settings. So it's just going to be an empty object. So we're not going to, because the load config loads a bunch of files. Like if I go back over here, we can see like this right here, load settings, and then load settings for path and paths. So it loads up a bunch of files. And I don't want to do that. I just want to pull in these default settings. So this way we can do everything in memory once, one off, doesn't pull in anything crazy. Next up, we have to figure out where our base model is. It's right here inside of bit models base. From bit.models.base, import base, because we register, we inherit from this base class on all of our database models. So then I can just do base.metadata.create all, and it'll create all of the databases, all the tables in the database. Now, connect database. This should return an async engine. Yep, so that returns an engine. We're going to call this database, right, like that. Get rid of it like that, and then we do database dot begin as connection, run sync, right? Okay, cool. And then from bit.site import app. There we go. Yep, app. So then we just change this to app, and then we change where is it? Connect. We're going to return. This is going to get the database, right, like that. We want to do this. DB equals, and we're going to return DB, and then we need to grab this right like that, because we got to create the tables. Boom, right like that, and we need to make this async because that's an async with. There we go. So now we have the database connection is being created here. We're creating a session. We're running in synchronous mode. We're running a synchronous function on our event loop because we're using an async. Because we're using async fast API. Fast API is async, so we want to use that. And then so this way we're not blocking waiting for our database. We're able to run other async routes while we're working with the database. But because this create all isn't async, we have to use a run sync on the thing, and that'll actually cause this to run inside of a thread, which is super convenient. All right, next up, what do we do next? So now we've got the database connected. We've got the config going into the database. The database is then being passed into the client here. We want to, whenever someone asks for the connect function to be run as a dependency, instead we want to run our own function, which is going to return the database we're creating right here. Now we're going to set up the app to use that. Okay. And then let's just look at the site. Do I have anything we can write a really quick test for? We could run a test against this route right here, v1 API create. Okay. We have a test here. Test bit creation. Right like that. And then, because what we're doing here is we're creating an async client. So this is going to be using HTTPX. We can talk to a website using an async client, right? But it has this really cool feature where we can set an app, which is any ASCII app. So like an async, I forget what it stands for, but it's the standard that Python uses for creating asynchronous web servers, right? Like creating framework on an async web server, right? So what this will do is it'll take that ASCII app, right? And it'll treat it, it'll just talk to it directly. It won't even need a server. It just talks to it directly because it knows what that protocol is, which is what's super convenient about having a standard like that. You can literally have, like, it'll work with Starlet, it'll work with Fast API. I'm trying to think what other ones. It should work with Flask 2.0, which has an async interface to it. I think it'll work with that. I've not tested it, but like, so like anything that's implementing that works on the ASCII protocol will work just by passing it to this, and you don't even need a server, which is super duper convenient. All right, so now we've run our settings into our database, and our database into our client, our async web client, right? And now we're going to create a test. We're going to create our first test bit creation. We're taking in the client right here, so we're getting our client, and then we're going to, was it post? Nope, it's a get. It should be a post. That should be a post. So we're going to make it a post for now. .post, right? And then we're going to post up to, and it is, we're going to do this bit/create, right like that. All right like that. And then that's going to go right here. Localhost, database, data. We don't want to pass any data yet. And that's going to return back this object right here. And because it's going to get converted to JSON, all right, like that. Response status code should be 200. And then the JSON should look right like that. Let's get rid of all these other tests from that other project. And then let us run this. And it exploded. Yay. All right, cool. Has no attribute URI. Okay, so what we want to do, the database is expecting something different than what I gave it. DB URI. Right, like that. Now if we run it, it explodes. Yeah, why does it explode? Function object has no attribute begin. Database.begin async with. Why? Oh, I know. I see. We have to change, I have database, which is the name of the function. I got to change it to DB because that's what we're putting our connection into, is DB right there. So now if we run it, boom, there we go, it passed. So what that means is if we print this out, print response.json, right there, boom, there we go. See, it gave us back the data we want it to give. And like we come over here to site.py and let's do hello, right like that, and then we run it, it's going to fail, and we can see that now it has hello in there. One thing that I did on another project is I did this really interesting thing. I created this class fuzzy, right? Def init, and we're going to call it type, right? We're going to take the type, self.type equals type, okay? And then I did def equal other return other is instance other of type, right? Okay, so that means I can give this fuzzy a type, and it'll say it's equal to that other, to something else if that something else is an instance of the type we gave it here. So I can come down here and like, so you see that failed because it now has, it says bits hello, bits with a list of hello doesn't equal a bits with an empty list, right? So now I could do fuzzy list, right? Boom. And it failed. Why did it fail? Was there something I forgot somewhere? Oh, I know why. Self.type. Boom. There we go. Boom. Now it passed. even though that list is now has something in it. But like if I were to come back over here to site, right? And we changed this we changed this to just the string hello, right? Like that. Now it'll fail. And let's do this. I can make that prettier so it's easier to read what it is. Def repr return any, and then self dot type dot name any name. All right, cool. So now when we run it, it says bits. The key bits with a value hello is not equal to the key bits with a value of any list, which is pretty fancy. And then if I come back over here and I make that a list again, I make it an empty list, it'll work. There we go. So now we have a nice, easy way to create tests that are kind of fuzzy. Like they're not looking for an exact match. We're just looking for the key bits inside of a dictionary, and it has to have a value that is a list. All right, there we go. So now we have our first test. We're able to call an API route without running a server, without having to do anything crazy like that. We just run it right there, right like that, which is super duper convenient. Are you using IntelliJ or PyCharm? Otherwise, it won't work for you. It only works for IntelliJ editors like PyCharm, WebStorm, CLion. Those editors, it'll work in them. You do use PyCharm? Yeah, I can put it up online. I can put it up somewhere. I'm trying to think if I can upload it. I'm trying to remember if the bot will yell at me. We can try. Let's right here. Hello. We'll give it a shot. Let's see if it works. Because I have it available to me right here. Go up one. Boom. There you go. Yeah, you can download it. Because it's like all editors use a different theme system. And so like IntelliJ uses ICLS files for their themes. They have different values that they're looking for. VS Code uses its own theming engine, and it has its own theming files. So, unfortunately, they're not cross-compatible. I might try to convert this over to VS Code at some point, because I do sometimes use VS Code. Although now that I have PyCharm Pro, I'm able to do a lot more stuff with it just out of the box. Like I don't have, like I think I do like, I have all kinds of TypeScript and JavaScript support now. So I can do a lot more now with that. So I don't know how much I'm going to be using VS Code from now on. All right. So now we've got that working. Let's see if we can actually create. What I want to do is come over here. Let's do this. Oh, I wanted to set that up for a reason. Let's set up a test for the authentication, right? Test user authentication. Post bit, and that authenticate, right, like that should be 200. We're posting. Now here's the thing I didn't understand in the past. All right, so we are taking a username right like that. So we can authenticate by posting JSON data. And I had called that username Bob, right? And then we should get back a JWT, and we should response JSON. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. So let's print it out. Response.json, right like that. And then run that again. So one of them passed and one of them failed. This one passed. Access token. All right, cool. So now we get an access token. So now I can say access token, fuzzy string. There we go. Now it passed. Because like that token is going to change every time. It's not going to be the same every time we run it, I don't think. I don't remember off the top of my head, actually. It should be different every time. Yeah, because it has an expiration time in there. So it's going to change every time we generate a new token. So if I do fuzzy, I don't have to worry about, I just need to know, oh, hey, there's a string in there. We're going to fuzzily check that. And like you see how simple that was. Like it's just like literally super simple. It's just that code right there. And then we added this to make it look pretty. If there's an error, we can see what the fuzziness is. All right. Okay, cool. So now we know that's working. Because what I want to do is I want to see about, I want to fast API. Let's do this. I'm going to do auth app equals fast API. And then we're going to put this on auth app, right? And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do app dot add, not route. Whoops. Is it dot mount? Yes. And then we're going to do /v1/API/bit/auth authentication, right like that. Okay. And then we're going to mount auth app, right like that. And then I'm going to do this. And then when we run that, it blows up. Okay. 404. So it didn't find the URL. It didn't find the API authenticate. Did we miss? Oh, yeah, we did. We did authentication. Should have been authenticate. It still got a 404. Oh, I've got bit in there. Whoops. And now we got a 307. Not sure what 307. Temporary redirect. Let's go to Fast API. Go to their docs. Fast API, because I know there's a way to do it, and like I just got to figure out what it is again. User guide. Let's see if we can find it in here real quick. Header parameters, response model, extra models, response status code, dependency, security, middleware. Where's the thing we want? Not there, that's for sure. So maybe it's under the advanced user guide. Additional status code, user guide, return a response directly. No SQL sub application. Oh, there we go. Mounts right there. Did I do it right or did I do something weird? No, that should be right like that. That should work. Why is it giving me a redirect? Sub API and then sub API. Why are we getting a temporary redirect? Let's remove, just because we're doing a status code check. Let's run it again without the status code. It still blows up. Okay. So we're getting an error that the response data is wrong. So let's just print response.content, maybe it's, I hope it's content. Make my life a lot easier if it is. Okay, good. And we're getting an empty string. We're getting nothing back. Cool. That's just what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that. Maybe we just copy this. Maybe I'm like, it would be giving a 404 though, I would think. We're posting to the right spot. Why are you doing this? Why is it not working? Why is it behaving poorly? Let's do this. Auth/login. All right. And then we do auth/login. That worked. And then if we undo that, so it didn't like the root slash on this. So it didn't like having a mounted app with a root slash for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe, what if we did this? What if we do this? Remove it all together. Nope, still blows up. 404, 200. Very odd. And then get back over here. Boom. There we go. Yeah, that works. We can do that. That works for me. And then we're gonna do what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a package, Python package. We're gonna call it endpoints. And this is gonna let us organize things a little bit better, right? So I'm gonna move this whole site into endpoints, right? Like that, refactor. And then I'm going to, oh goodness, we need to, do we need to do anything special here? Login big, get logger site, set level logger. Don't think I need to do anything special. I just need to move this up here. We're going to take this bit right here. We're going to take that out. Yeah, that makes sense. And then we're going to do command N py Python file. And we're going to call this auth. We're going to paste auth app right in here like that. And then we need to do from fast API, import fast API. And then from, oh goodness, where Pydantic import base model, right like that. So now we can do both of those things. Then we have login. We have to import signJWT from bit.auth import signJWT. Right like that. Super duper simple. And we close that. And then this, we're going to do, I'm going to rename this one. Not that, I want to rename the file to API. And it's going to, from bit.endpoints.auth import auth app. We're going to get rid of that. I don't care about it. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I'm not going to care about that for now. And then we're going to do app.mountAuth app. I'm going to rename this to API app. API app. Yeah, like that. And then this is actually going to get removed from here as well. And then we're going to do API app.mount /v1/API / you know, we're going to remove the API bit. So we got to come over here to the tests and remove that. So we're just going to assume v1 means API, right? Like that. Okay. And then we're going to do bit. And that's going to be the bit app. Bit app, right like that. Doesn't exist yet, but we're adding it anyway. Cool. So then we're just going to copy this and we're going to call that bit.py. So now we have that bit.app. We don't need this for now. We just need to rename this to bit. Get rid of that. Oh, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need, we just need, paste the right thing. There we go. And then that'll just be create. Nice and neat. And we'll call that bit app. And then we run the tests and things explode. Get rid of both of those. Maybe we need to update this right here. API app. There we go. So then when we got to right here, API app, and then over here, API app. There we go. Now we run it and boom, everything works and everything's in its own file. Nice and neat, super convenient, super clean. Don't have to worry about it too much. So now if we need to edit auth files, we have auth files here. If we need to edit something with how the bit API is going to work, we're going to edit it here. And that's where we're going to be right now. So we're going to create a bit. And that's actually going to, how is that going to work? How is this going to work? What it's going to do, we're going to come back over here. We're going to do this right here. We're going to do this. Bit create should response code 200. And it should come back with bit, and it should come back with ID, and that should be a fuzzy int, right like that. It should come back with name, fuzzy string, and user ID, and that should be a fuzzy int. Right like that. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. That should be, if we look back over here at the bit, let's pass back the archived. That's going to be a fuzzy int. Let me enable something here. Preferences, tools. Gonna get some formatting working here. Oh, do I not have that working on here? Space actions on save. Let's optimize imports, all file types, that works. I thought I had. Interesting. What is under tasks? No, that's not what I want. Actions on save. Whole file. Okay. Now it should. Now it's not going to give it to me. I guess I have to install a plugin to get that working. And I don't think off the top of my head. Oh, there it is. Plugins. File watcher. Let's search the marketplace, please. I think this is the one I had before. Installed. Plugins, it doesn't seem to have. Does it explain how to use it? I want to be able to run Black. I have Black installed. Doesn't explain how to use it. That'd be great if it did. Go away. All right. Oh well. I can't figure it out. We can add an external tool. Black. Tool settings. Then we just come over here, which Black. Boom. Arguments, and then you just add an argument, file path, and advanced options. Okay. Why did it not work? What? Interesting. Very odd. That's weird. Oh, wait, here we go. Custom. Just showed up. Don't know why it took so long. Python. I need to edit that. Program path. There we go. Boom. Arguments. And then we just come back in here. File path. Advanced options. I don't want on autosave. I don't want to trigger on external changes. Okay. Apply. Boom. 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 Bam. There we go. Now when I save, it makes it look pretty. Super handy. Super fancy. All right, so now we have this, which is going to fail if we run it. One ignored. Why did one get ignored? No async plugin installed, huh? How does that work? Poetry and async PyTest async. Yeah. Boom. Well, I'm on the wrong project. Would. Poetry. Install. There we go. It says it should be there. What the heck? Did we somehow get moved to the wrong Python version? I don't think I edited that, did I? All right, let's go back over here. Bit. Python interpreter. Should be the correct one. Bit VM Python. Okay. Edit. Oh, I had an S. There we go. Boom, now it exploded. That's weird. Okay. So yeah, now it blows up because we got bits, a dictionary with key bits and an empty list. And we expected it to equal bit, the key bit with a dictionary with a key archived with any int, a key ID, any int, a name with any string, and a user ID with any int. And we don't have any of those. So we need to come back over here to the bit endpoint. And this has got to depend on the database. So what we're going to do is from bit dot database import connect, and then we do depends because we're going to depend on it. DB equals, actually, if I do from SQL alchemy dot ext dot asyncio import async engine. This should be an async engine, right? Like that. And then we do depends. It's going to depend on connect, right? Like that. That should work. We'll find out, I guess. Run that. Let's see if that explodes in a different way. 422. Why does it say 422? Unprocessable entity. Interesting. Why is it saying unprocessable entity? I guess we'll have to figure that out now. The simplest part, the simplest step, is to just get rid of this, because sometimes still the same thing. Unprocessable entity. Why would that? Get rid of that. Let's make sure it works. Yeah, that doesn't work for the correct reason. But when I add that, it should inject the database, no? Why no work? Now I'm just a little bit confused. Why would this not work? What if we do... I don't like that. I can do it, can't I? I could do something like from fast API import depends. Let's try this out. And we're going to do settings, and this is going to depend on from bit.config load config. Equals depends load config. I could spell. There we go. Right like that. And then now we have settings DB. Okay, right like that. And then over inside our tests, we have to do something a little bit different. Rather than doing connect, we don't need the database here, but we do need the config. And instead of, we're going to need load config. Now we want to override that. Load config and return config, right like that. See how that exposes. Still the same thing, huh? Unprocessable entity. Let's get rid of this maybe. Oh. There we go. And so there now we got our assert working correctly. All right. So I think we're just going to go with this. We don't have to make this all that super, because I was making it super duper fancy. And we don't have to go all that fancy. This is just like a one-off project that we're just using ourselves. So that works. So now we've got it injecting. Like what it didn't like was parameters on this, because Fast API is trying to be smart and inject any parameters that we don't provide. And so like whenever we were depending on something, it was trying to inject parameters into it, and it couldn't because it didn't know what the parameter types were correctly. And it was causing things to break. So by making this parameterless, it actually makes it work really well. All right. So there we go. So now we've got that working. We've got connect working. We've got go away. Bit right here. So now we have the database here, right? So now we can do async with db.begin. And can I do that? Let me see. From SQLAlchemy.exe.asyncio import async engine. Am I going to be allowed to do this? Is it going to let me? So I can get my type hinting. Let's run it. And it worked. Okay, cool. So it's going to give me, should let me have my type hinting now. Async with db.begin, right like that. As session. And then we can do, we need to create the class bit new bit. And that's going to import from Pydantic. From Pydantic, import base model. And it's going to have the name, and that's going to be a string. it's going to have an ID. No, it's not going to have an ID. The ID gets created. And then we're going to have, so we have a name. It's not going to be archived. Like you're creating a bit, you're not going to create an archived bit. And then we're going to have a user ID. For now, I don't want to do that. Never mind. We don't want to do that because we want to pull that in from the session. And we got to figure out how do we pull that in from the session. That's going to be a little bit trickier. So we'll have to figure that out in a second here. Let's get this creating a bit and then we'll return that bit. All right. Session await, no, session dot add, and then we have to import from bit dot models dot bit import bit. That should be what we want right there. And then we are going to add a bit, and the name is going to be bit new bit, like that, bit dot name. That's gonna be the only thing that's in there. Does that support that? Let's see. Primary key is gonna be automatic. Default false, nullable false. All we have to do is give. Why does this not have a name? There. Now we'll give it a name. And we're gonna do Unicode right like that. So now we have a name. We're gonna set the user ID. And for now, we're just gonna set that to 0. And then user equals session dot from SQL Alchemy dot future import select, and then we do select user or bit dot where how SQL Alchemy get last insert ID. Then we do await session dot flush maybe. We'll see if that works. And then we do. Actually, all right, cool. New bit. And then we do add new bit. And then maybe we can return name, new bit.name, archived, new bit.archived. Actually, that's a bool, isn't it? It's not a, let's go over here to test, and that should be a fuzzy bool. All right. Archived, and then we do user ID is new bit.user ID, and then we do ID is new bit.id. All right, let's try running that. Something exploded. We got a 422. Unaccessible, no unprocessable entity. Because we're not posting any data to it. JSON equals name test bit. Something exploded. Why did it explode, huh? Wow. Async connection object has no attribute add. Cool. All right, so how do we do it then? Add all. Now what? Has no attribute at all. So, you see, SQL Alchemy. Why is it not working? Run sync, drop all connection. How do we add? They're using a session maker. We can make a session maker. So let's do that. Let's come over to database. And then we're going to do def session maker. And we're going to do database equals depends on connect. All right. And this is going to do, it needs to do this. From import from SQL Alchemy dot, where is he getting session maker from? Session maker ORM. Import session maker. Return session maker. Database, and then we need to import from SQL Alchemy.exe.asyncio, import async session, right like that. Should, I mean, we didn't update anything else to use that, did we? So instead of async engine, we do async session. This is going to be an async session. Depends, and instead of connect, we do session maker. And then we do, how does this work? So then he does async. We do session as, why are you complaining? Oh. Let's do from typing, import callable. And then this is going to be a callable. I'm going to re-add that. From typing, import callable. There we go. Right like that. And then we do as connection. What is it? All right. On. We don't want to add all, we just want to add. So what exploded? Oh goodness, another long one. Holy moly. Name, user ID archived. No such table bit. So why did it not create the table bit? So let's go ahead and then run back over to the tests. So it's not finding the tables when we tell it to create the tables. So like when we're calling base.metadata create all, it's not finding the tables. So we're going to import the base into models. Now, did it still not find the table? It did not find the no such table bit. Why do I feel like this is happening all over again? Like this happened the other day, didn't it? And that would be why. Maybe? No? Bit. All right, client. Run sync. All right. Why? So let's do this. Print created tables base.metadata.tables. So it's saying it created tables, audit. Let's do this. Dot keys. All right, created tables, audit bit code file user, audit bit code file user, right? Okay, cool. So what I can assume is, so we're creating the tables, we're getting the connection, right? We must not be caching that connection. Right? Let's do this. When we do the settings, right, like that. Setup failed. What does that mean? Has no object DB URI. Depends object has no, all right. Why would it say that? Load config. So what if we do this? DB equals config.uri, and then we have to import from SQL alchemy.exe.asyncio, import async engine. Was that what we needed? Create async engine. do that. And then up here, we still needed that. Connect DB. And from bit dot database import connect. For some reason, something isn't getting the correct database. And like one way we can see that, DB, ID DB, right like that. And then if we come over here to bit, where we are requesting, we can go over to session maker where it's requesting the database, and we can print ID database. Let's just put a marker on that so we can tell what we're looking at. And then we'll put a marker on this one that's different so we can tell what we're looking at. And yeah, so you see right here, is that what I'm looking here? Yeah, right here. So you see that number right there, that 44674999840, and then this one right here, the 44702911392. Those are the addresses for the two database connections that are being created. Why it's making two database connections, I don't know. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I push the correct stuff into everything else? Not sure what has gone wrong here. Turn. I need it to use this connection right here. See if, like, that didn't seem to work. Doing that dependency override there. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. No such table bit. This doesn't requires database. Auto use true. Not true, right? Type error. True. I don't know why it didn't auto complete that. Very confusing. So we can get rid of that. And it's the same thing. Why? I've goofed up somewhere and I'm not sure where. Something somewhere is not behaving the way I need it to. Go back to session maker. Yeah, it's just using connect. And then if I come back over here, doesn't make any sense. Oh, goodness. So like if we come over here and we do print API app dot dependency overrides, So we see the function connect is in there, right? Oh, you know what? I just figured out why. Because we're not just using API app, we're using a couple other apps as well. Oh, that's irritating. So if I were to come over here to api.py, and I were to do, you know, the easiest way to fix this, is literally to come over to our tests. Let's just copy that. Test API auth. And then the other one, we will rename. We'll rename that API bit. Okay. And then let's take these out. When fpf test conf the conf test. And then we need to import PyTest. And then we need to do from bit.config import settings from SQL alchemy.exe.asyncio import create async engine from bit.database import connect. And then from data. Oh, for models, import base, right like that. All right, so all of that's set up now. And then here from tests.conftest import fuzzy. And instead of API app, this is auth. So we're going to do auth app from, yeah, we can literally do it that way. Auth app. Right like that. Whoop. And then we don't need this anymore. And we can get rid of this right here. Don't forget, guys, like if you want to ask any questions or anything like that, this is a hangout, and like if you have any questions, I can answer them, that kind of stuff. You don't just have to watch me code. Like, I'm a little focused right now. I'm having a little bit of fun getting this code tested out and figured out. Let's figure out, let's run the test in here. See, this one works. Very cool. And then we come over here and we're going to go to API bit. And we're going to do from tests.conftest import fuzzy. And we're going to import bit.app. Bit app. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. We can get rid of these fixtures. We just need the client fixture. And that's going to be bit app. And then we can get rid of this test. And we get this test. And because we're going right to the bit app and not the API app, we don't need all of that URL stuff. We run that and that wrong one. This one, something exploded. What exploded? What exploded? Operational error, no such table bit. Never mind, maybe we're getting the exact same error messages now. Go back over to conf test. Let's just make sure this is getting you know why? I think I know why. We need to do bit app dot dependency overrides, and then we have to import from bit dot database, import connect, and then we do connect, and this needs to do database, and that's going to equal lambda database. Still exploded, but it's a smaller error message. Database not found. Database. Fixture database not found. Database. Why do you keep removing my thing? PyTest. Is it one word? It's one word. So let's rename that. So now we have a different kind of error. So we can fix that pretty simply. Let's see how do we fix this? We do need to copy this because this needs to go over into the API auth. It needs to come in here because we need to do the same thing here. Database. And then we do auth app. And we have to import from bit.database, import connect. There we go. So now, if we run the auth tests, there we go, that works. Like the only reason why we noticed it on the bit creation is because we're trying to get information back from the database. I think. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me. It really doesn't. I thought maybe the auth isn't putting anything in the database. That might be why. But now it is working. So if I run it in the bit file, we see it's working. The only problem is we're getting back archived false ID 1, name test bit, user ID 0. There it is. There's the problem. We're getting back bits and we're expecting bit. So if we come back over to endpoint bit and we scroll down, we change that to bit and we run it. Ta-da! It worked. Let's see if we can figure out where we put that print. It's not in here. It's not there. It's not there. Not there. There it is. So now if we run that, there shouldn't be any weird print statements in there. All right, cool. So now we are able to create a bit and put it into the database, and we're able to test it all, which is awesome. So let's see, what do we got to do next? Bit, so we're able to create a bit, and we're able to return that bit. Let's just, for simplicity, let's list a bit. No. I'm trying to decide what I want to do here. We'll do this. We'll create a file. add new file model. Actually, we want to do that as an upload. So how do we do an upload, guys? I know we did it before, but how do we do it again? Probably the easiest way is to just go look at the GitHub, because I know right where that one is. It's on the file storage web app. We're already uploading stuff. So we've got the server, we've got the API, we've got register, we've got upload right here. Okay, so this is how we're doing uploads. Right like that. New file model. So we're not doing that. We're doing this. File, fast API, upload file. So we're just going to do this. Upload file. Ta-da. And then we have to bit ID. So now we have the bit ID. That should populate for us, and then we can do we need to import models. We're going to do bit, and then we're going to do file. File. And that gets an ID, it gets a name, and it gets a bit ID. And we're also going to have to do the code. Bit ID, file name. Right? Is that how I did that over here? File name optional string none. How does that work? All right, whatever. So I guess we don't need the form bit. So we can just do file name string right like that. And so that'll be file name, bit ID is bit ID, right like that. New file. We're actually going to do an add all here, because we're going to do new code as well. New code equals, and then we've got to do code right like that. Equals code. And this one gets the contents of the file, and it's going to get the file ID, and it's going to get the created. But we only have to worry about these two, because created is input by the server, the database server. So we've got code equals, how do we read the file? Save to disk. Let's jump to that. We'll just copy. We'll copy that for now. Code equals file dot read -1. So that should read everything in theory. And then file ID. Well, actually, that's a good point right there. We've got to add that individually. And then we have to flush, and then we do file ID equals new file dot ID. Right, like that. New code, con dot add new code. Wait, con dot flush. And then this is going to return a crazy bit of stuff. It's going to return file name new file dot name created new file dot created. Right? Oh, no. That's going to be on the code object. All right, never mind. It's not new file. It's new code. I don't know why that didn't complain. Dot created. There we go. And then user ID is going to be on the bit. We're not worried about the bit right now. File ID. New file ID. Code ID. Right, like that. And what else do we have? So we have the file gets the bit ID. So let's return that. Bit ID. New file dot bit ID. File ID, code ID. The name of the file, when this was created. And the only other thing we need code is the code. Yeah. Code, new code dot code, right, like that. So then if we go over to our bit test, and let's just copy this test right here. Come down here, boom, boom. And then we're going to do, we actually need to do response. ID or bit ID equals response. Actually, no, we don't. We don't need to do that. You know why we don't gotta do that? Because it's not actually checking if the bit exists. It'll upload to any bit if we tell it to. Which is not good. For now, that's a security problem. But we can do 0, which is bit ID files /add. Data file name test file, and then files equals, and then we need to do from IO import bytes IO, and then we do bytes IO. Initial bytes is going to be print hello world. Right, like that. And then we're just going to print out response.json so we can get an idea what that looks like. Add file to bit. Something exploded. No module named multipart. Why on earth? I swear I installed that. Poetry add multipart. Whoop. Control Z. That's not what we want to do. Poetry remove multipart. Let's just check and make sure that didn't get added. Bit. poetry lock. Yeah, we want to get rid of that. Discard local changes. Boom. There we go. Nothing else has that added in, right? Nothing else? Okay, cool. And then we got to do poetry, add Python multi-part. There we go. That's the one we need to add. A little bit annoying when they do that. It's like, now you want to add the multi-part package, but it's got to be Python multi-part. Multi-part is not the thing you want. Now, if we come back over here and we run it, something exploded! Too many values to unpack. What exactly is raising this? Site package multi-part. Alright, HTTPX is raising it. So that means it's right here. We need to make that a list. Yes? No? Maybe? Not enough values to unpack. Alright. It wants... God. Did I don't think I wrote a test for that, did I? Let's just double check. Go back, please. I have tests, but I don't think I wrote test API. Client, test register route, test login route. Yeah, it doesn't have a test for that. So let's do HTTPX upload file. So it can be a dictionary. So we can do a dictionary. Let's do a dictionary. File. Now what exploded? I have a syntax error. Where did I put my syntax error? No. Right here. Now we have another assertion error. 422 unprocessable entity. What is that? Add file. I'm gonna rename that. Just run that again, just to be on the safe side. We never set the bit ID. Oh no, we did. Never mind. I'm gonna get rid of that for the moment. Like, I don't understand what this unprocessable entity means. Good Lord. Detail lock, body file, message, field required, type, value error missing. What does that mean? Why is this not working? Okay, so we got a different error by doing that. So I think that was the problem. But what is this error? Don't tell me. Probably unsupported type. So, you know what that might mean? Dot decode, maybe? We'll try decoding. Oh my goodness. Contents equals await file dot read -1. Still got an error message. Detached instance error. I hate SQL Alchemy sometimes. Oh goodness, why are you detached? What if we do, let's do this craziness. Let's indent that. Did it give me the same error? Missing greenlit. What on earth? Why are you doing this? Oh my god. Like, no, that's not it. What on earth is it talking about? Good lord. So like, if we remove this line, will it work? Yeah, it'll work. It's just that stupid line where it's trying to fetch something from the database. New code dot yeah. So let's get that error message again. Let's see if we can maybe find something useful on it. Missing greenlit. Background on this error. Maybe that's useful. Who knows? Ooh, maybe this might actually be useful. Why do I have to think about this? Like, that's what bothers me. Why do I have to think about this? What it's telling me is I need to eager, because what's happening is, right here, I'm telling it to push everything I just added into the database, right? And then down here, I'm getting all that information, all that stuff, and like when I do that, it pushes it into the database, it updates the database with all the stuff I just created, right? And then it updates this code instance to the new code, with the ID that got created in the database, right? But the created date is also created in the database. So what's happening is it's trying to be smart and not update this code instance with the information. It only wants to update it if we need it, and it knows we need it if we ask for it, right? But because it's happening down here, and there's no way for me to await that property, I can't asynchronously connect to the database and get it. So what I have to do is I have to tell it to eagerly insert the values and get the information. I don't know how to do this in a way to do what I want. I'm trying to figure out how to make it do what I want it to do. Exactly, and it's like, what is this trying to do? Like, I feel like there's a simpler way to have accomplished this, and they just haven't figured it out yet. Okay, so this looks like it might be the simplest way. So if I go over to the code object, let's just see if this even works. Come down here. Boom. And then we scroll over, created. There we go. We got our created date. How irritating. Let's see if that works. Will that let me... Yeah, that works. So there we go. Now I don't even have to think about it. It's all being set on the base, which we're inheriting from, and so now it'll get all the values we need. Silly stuff. It's like, why not just do that by default and then be like, hey, we had to do... In order to make async work, we have to eagerly load these values. If you don't want to eagerly load them, here's what you can do to make it work differently. Because now I'm having to jump through code just to try and figure out how to make my code that looks correct actually function. It's just silly in my opinion. I don't actually think I need to call flush here. And the reason why I don't have to call flush there, this can get removed, dedented, right like that. There we go. Okay, cool. And the reason I don't have to call flush there is because I don't need to use the value later. Like if I removed this one right here, will it work? Yeah, the file ID gets set to none. Maybe we do need to call flush because I'm looking at the code ID is none. So let's do the flush. Let's make sure all the IDs, there we go. So now we have a bit ID 0, a file ID 1, a code ID 1, name is upload. So now we got to figure out where that's coming from. Created, and then the code inside the file is print hello world. All right, cool. Let's go back over to here. So this right here is this value is the name of the variable. So that means we can do, I think, let's see if this works. Test.py. Did that change? Yes, there we go. So now we're setting the name of the file. If I do file name string and yeah, that causes something to blow up. Field required. And that would be, and then we do data equals file name. We're getting our commas there, and so it's still not finding it. So what we need to do is from fast API, is it body? I think it's body. There we go. So now we're able to set the file name. And the default is going to be none. And then we can do file name or no. From future import annotations, right? Like that. Boom. Something exploded. Oh, that's what exploded. File name or file.file name. Something else exploded. What's exploding? Did I not? So we'll just do from typing. Import union. And then we'll do... Oh, I don't gotta do union. I gotta do optional. Optional string. Get that to stop yelling at us. Then we run it. And now we see our file ID, code ID, name testing.py created. So now if I come over here, I can say, so we have test.py and then testing.py. So if I get rid of this line, it should now come up as test.py. Yeah, there we go. So if the file gets uploaded with a name, it'll use that, but you can override that by setting your own name. There we go. All right, cool. So now let me just copy. You can go away, please. Let's just copy that. And then we're going to do assert response.json equals let's get that nice and pretty. Bit ID 0, and this is going to be a fuzzy int. Because we're setting the ID of the bit right there, so I can test that pretty easily. Int. We know what the file name is going to be, so we're just going to call it right there. We don't know when this is going to be created, so we're going to do fuzzy string. And then we know what the code is going to be. There we go. So now we have a test to ensure that our file is being uploaded correctly. And right here, we're going to change this because we know what the name of the bit is going to be. And currently, yeah. All right. Archived There we go. So we know what those values are going to be. So we can actually test for those values. All right, so there we go. That's how we can do that. That's how we can make tests. That's how we can make this all function the way we want it to. We actually made a good bit of progress. Like, we got to add a lot of like authentication. We got to do some verification. Like, right now, you can add a file without being logged in. And that means you can add a file to any user account. To any bit, like anything. We're not even checking to see if the bit exists on this endpoint. So we'll probably want to add that kind of support. Like, we could add that right now. We could do we have select imported here? We do not. From SQLAlchemy.future, import select. All right. And then we come down here and we do bit equals select bit dot where bit.id equals bit id, right? And then we do con dot execute await result bit equals result dot scalars dot first, right? Like that. That should get us the bit. If not bit, raise, we gotta import HTTP exception, raise. What kind of error do we raise with this? We'll raise a 404. HTTP exception 404 bit not found. So then if we come over here, we can do this. We can add a test. Test, add file to non-bit. And so it pretty much is going to end up being the same. We're going to just get rid of that. We don't need to have all this extra stuff. We just need to have the basics, the most basic bits of it. And this should return a 404. And the response JSON, we'll just print that out for the moment, because I'm not sure exactly. I think it's going to be a dictionary with a key detail, and then the value that's going to be what I just set for the error message. Yeah, it's going to be this right here. So I did remember it. So we can just assert equals, boom. So there we go. Now that one's passing, but this one's failing. And why is this one failing? That's because now it's getting the status code 404 not found that we just added, because the bit 0 does not exist. So what we can do, what we have to do, is we need to copy this code right here. And we put it right here. And then we do bit equals response.json. And then we have to do bit id. And then we're going to assert that the bit id is the bit id. Still exploded. Here, ID. Oh, right. Yes. Bit. 404, 200. So it did not find the bit. Interesting. Why did it not find the bit? Do we need to await commit? Let's find out. We'll find out in just a second here. Await con.commit. There we go. Now everything passes. I think that causes things to break up, blow up. What is this? Yeah. So what you can do, because what this does right here, async with con.begin, this will create a transaction. So like instead of having to remember to call commit at the end, I can use this, and it will, as soon as we exit this section, it'll automatically commit. Do I need that flush? I don't need that flush anymore. Awesome. So now if we come down here, we do async with session.begin or con.begin. We're going to bring that down a bit. Right, like that. Actually, we do want to leave that flush. And so what this will do, we don't need this flush. So what this will do now, because we have both of these inside of the begin, if there's an exception here after we flush this transaction will roll back. So it should, in theory, remove that file that got created. We have an explosion. What's this explosion now? Good God. Transaction has already begun on this session. Do I need to put everything inside of the... We'll find out in just a second, won't we? Not null constraint failed. Oh, because we need to... So yeah. So what ended up happening is we can do this. Let's do that. Pull this down to here. And then we dedent that. And we're going to duplicate this. And bring that up here, right like that. Okay. Now we're going to create a session to get the bit and check and see if it exists. And then we're going to do a session right here. And then we're going to create a transaction that is going to do all of that. Now, and the reason why we're getting this error message, this one right here, it's saying, if we scroll down all the way to the bottom to this very long error message, not null constraint failed on the file ID. What's happening is we're not flushing this one. So if we do a wait con.flush, there we go. Now it works because now we're submitting this to the database inside of this transaction so that we can get the ID, and then we're attaching that ID to this. All right, cool. There we go. Very awesome. Working great. All right. So now we've got all that working. All right, cool. Took a little over 2 hours. We got it working. We've got it working pretty well. Now it'll handle, if a bit doesn't exist, it'll handle, if a bit does exist. Stage all, set up a auth and bit create endpoints with tests. There we go. And like that's so much like more easily worked with than like actually, because like I could launch, let me see, can we launch? Oh dear. If I come over here to main, Does main have this set up correctly? Bit2site app. It's API app. bit.endpoints.api.app. All right. If we then run poetry, run python -m, and then we do bit. Ah, yes. We got to do API app. Boom, there it works. Now if we go over to localhost 8000, details not found, and then we go v1/bit, and then we detail not found, and then we do docs. There we go. Now we got our docs. So now we can see how to create, we can add files, all of this stuff is here, which is super convenient if you want to just play around with the API. But it's not reproducible. Like next week when we come back, we won't be able to run all of the tests, make sure everything's still working. If we have to go through this and like spend all the time, like if we make a change, we'd have to go through all this. Writing the tests, it took a little bit of work. It took a little bit of finagling with it to get it working, right? But now that it's working, it's pretty convenient and it's pretty awesome because we can literally write each of the actions we want to take and we can make it happen the same way every single time. And it makes sure that when we make changes, those changes don't break anything. So, pretty handy, pretty fancy. Got it working. And that just uploads one file to a bit. Like if we want to upload multiple files, we'd have to call the endpoint multiple times. Maybe we don't want to do that. So like maybe we want to make this somehow a list of files. I don't know how we would accomplish that just yet, but we could figure out a way. So that might be something to do next week, but that's pretty cool. We've got the bits creating. We're able to create a bit. We're able to add a file to a bit. And then like we have to add the ability to edit a bit, which editing a bit, like right here, we're doing the, we go back over here. Like you see, we're creating the file and then we're creating the code. Editing a bit is just going to be changing this part. And then when we are later going to query for bits and files on bits, it's just going to grab the code with the latest created time. So that's how that's going to work. So you'll be able to have file history out of the gate. Pretty neat. All right, so now let's see, what did we change here? Update. Bootstrap to use new endpoint locations. There we go. Boom, boom. Push that up to the cloud onto GitHub. All right, so I think that's pretty much a wrap for that for today. Normally I do about 2 hours today. If you have any questions, let me know in like the next 30 seconds. If you're first joining us for the first time, either like watching the stream or if you're watching the recording later on, we'd love to have you on the beginner.code's Discord server. We were at like 7,700 members, somewhere right around there, but it still feels like a pretty small, like it has a small server feel to it. Like you're not going to send a message and it's going to get lost in 100,000 messages in the first 30 seconds. You send a message, people will see it. They'll respond to it most likely. We have a help channel system if you have any questions that you need help with. We support a lot of different languages, a lot of different things. And even if we can't support it directly, we will try to help out where we can to figure things out. So if you have any questions, if you're trying to just learn things, if you need advice, anything like that, join us on the beginner.code's Discord server. I should have the invite link down in the description. I'd love to have you there. If you would like to ask me any questions, talk to me in any place, my Twitter is down below. I monitor the comments on my videos. And you can find me on the beginner.code's Discord server. I'm there pretty much every single day. Not all day, but I'm there every single day. checking stuff out. If you mention me, I will see it and I will probably respond. So yeah, y'all have a great week. I had fun tonight. I will see you probably Sunday. Keep a watch on my Twitter. Keep a watch on the Discord server. I will update if anything changes. It is Father's Day this weekend in the United States, so I might be doing stuff with family. I'm not sure what the family plans are. So I'll keep my Twitter and the Discord updated so everybody knows what's going on. But yeah, I will hopefully see you Sunday. If not Sunday, at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Just the same time as this one was. All right? So y'all have a great week. I'll see you later.